Everybody encounters adversity. It's how you respond to adversity that determines your future self. That's the topic of today's Rewired Gamer with Ronnie Doss.
I hope our fans are ready for a wild ride. Juggernaut or not, we're here to kick some ass.
If you say you just can't take any more, all you're really saying is I just don't want to go any higher.
Failure is not the opposite of success. It's only part of it.
And you kept fighting, and you kept fighting, and you kept fighting. That's all I ask from you guys ever.
Welcome back to the Rewired Gamer. We're on episode 8. Have Ronnie Doss with me as always, and we appreciate you stopping by. Today's topic is a good one. Overcoming adversity. And I hope if you found this video on YouTube that this is going to be helpful to you at some point in your life, because I think we're all going to encounter some adversity. You know, shit happens. Things go wrong. They all hit hard times no matter who we are. Isn't that right, Ronnie?
Dude, it doesn't matter. None of us are immune to it. It's going to happen, baby, at some point. If it doesn't happen continuously throughout your life in some way, like it will happen at some point. But I think sometimes it's continuous. There's adversity all around us most of the time. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we'll talk about this stuff today. But yeah, it's good, man.
Let's dive right into it then. I appreciate everybody joining us on the live Twitch recording. Today's topic, as I said, is overcoming adversity, and we had to put something on here. Life can suck, but our attitude doesn't need to. So let's talk a little bit about adversity. You know, our first pillar for today is ownership is the first step towards transformation. Adversity is guaranteed. Basically saying, listen, if you're alive on this planet, you're going to have adversity. Things are going to go wrong. You're going to have to deal with problems. And being equipped to deal with those problems and anticipating those problems is part of wisdom, is part of growth. It's just common sense. You know, if you're alive on this planet and you haven't hit any really, really hard times, that's fantastic. But I guarantee you will. And most people watching this video probably already have. All right?
Yeah, I would bet. I think most of us, if we've lived at all and been outside of just the comfort of our mother's womb, like at some point, even as a kid, right? I'm serious, man. You're born into the world. And it's like you immediately, what do they say when you're born? Like the doctor immediately smacks you on the butt. Like it's like slap, welcome to the real world, supposedly. You know, I don't know if they still do that, but you know, it's like, welcome to you just left comfort and stability. Now you're into this chaotic world. And oh, by the way, here's a smack. Just take that, let you know what's coming. But yeah, no matter what, man, everybody's faced it and we're going to keep facing it. But I think we all live good lives and all pretty comfortable. We don't want to take that for granted, but I think adversity is just, there's a lot to adversity and it's going to happen, man. Relationships, physical health, job, business, money. There's going to be adversity, man, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And our first pillar is ownership is the first step towards transformation. So talk to us a little bit about that. We all know we're going to have this adversity. We all know we're going to have problems. If you watch some people, they go through just the most dramatic, extreme difficulties in their life. And they're smiling and they're battling and they come out stronger on the other end. Where unfortunately, you watch other people and they hit these rough patches of life and, you know, it doesn't go well for them all the way to the extremes, you know. So I think preparing for adversity, thinking about adversity before it comes, before you're in, you know, the storm is a good idea. So what is ownership is the first step towards transformation? What does that mean?
Well, you know, they always say the first step to creating change or solving a problem is to admit that there is a problem. And I'm very clear, Jay, that when it comes to living a life where there's so much chaos and there's so much, like so many circumstances and so many things that are changing all the time, like stability really, as we've mentioned briefly before, stability is really kind of an illusion. Like we're all working towards stability, but I don't think that's really anything to work for. Because there's always chaos. I mean, just outside, like, you know, think about living in a neighborhood. Like, you know, in my house, it's like things are peaceful, things are great, things are good. But one house over, you don't know the stresses these people are dealing with, right? Like they could be dealing with challenges with their children, their health, their money, job, all these things. You don't know. And so chaos is just right outside your door. And if you want to kind of hide out in your life and duck behind, and pretend like it's not there and, hide out underneath the bed your whole life, never peep your head out, then hey, that's fine. But I think most of us would say that we're going to try and do something and make something happen with our life, whether that's in our careers, whether that's stepping into a relationship, becoming a parent, whatever, right? Like starting a business, anything that you're going to feel these things. The chaos is just outside the door. And ownership is going, hey, I own the fact that it's going to happen. Like you said it. I didn't know you were going to throw that in there, Jay. But when you said, hey, planning for it ahead of time, expect the best, plan for the worst. Yeah. Like planning is a big thing. And it's like, hey, how can I plan or save for a rainy day? Like, how can I get ready for the winds of change? Like you can't change the coastline and where the rocks are, but you can adjust your sails on the boat so you don't crash into the rocks, right? So planning and knowing that, hey, I got to own this. There is going to be challenges and adversity. And when it happens, I don't need to be whining and complaining and moaning and groaning like, oh, poor woe is me. Like, it's like, that does no good. Like it feels good for a moment. Maybe you get a little bit off your chest, but it's like, okay, you going to complain about it and hide out, or are we going to go to solution? And so if we're going to go to solution, then I have to own the fact that it's going to be, if it is to be, it's going to be up to me. I have to do something here and I got to create some solutions. And so from that standpoint, Jay, when I mean ownership, it's like ownership of your role, own where you contribute to the negativity, where you contribute to the drama, where you contribute to the problem, because we all contribute to it in most ways. And many quotes, many different people have said, hey, it's never really the problem that's the problem. It's your attitude and your perspective on the problem that makes it the problem. Right. And so if I own that, then I start going, okay, my perspective is going to matter. My perception of this issue. Is this a real problem, or is it an opportunity? Is it is this a blessing, a gift, and a blessing in disguise? Is this a gift? Because when you own that, you're like, hey, the problems are going to come. They're going to be here. So I can step up here and take ownership, be more personally responsible for my attitude, my energy, my focus. That's where you can start to navigate out of the woods, or, instead of just walking around circling the mountain, complaining the whole time. And Jason, make no mistake about it. Please hear me. You guys listen to this. I've worked with enough people. Some people make it their life's mission to let everybody know how freaking miserable they are and how bad their life is, because that becomes the diversion of the focus. That if I can tell you how bad it is, then that becomes the focus. It diverts the attention away from what it is that I know that I've been put here to do. And if you've been put here to do with talents, gifts, and you're alive today, and you're still able to talk and to reason, you have your health in any capacity, I think you still have a job to do. And so if you hold yourself accountable in the sense of you're your own corporation, you own the corporation, you're the manager, you're the board of directors, you're the employees, you're the sales team, you're the HR, you're all of it. When you own that, then you're like, I got to take this thing seriously. And even if we get hit with some challenges, we got to keep moving. The show must go on. And when you adopt that, you take ownership of that principle and that idea, I think, it equips you, man. It's like, you go into work out and you're putting weight on the side of the bar, what you're getting ready to handle. But if somebody blindfolded you and just dropped some weight on you, you might be like, oh my God, how do I do this? What am I doing here? I think that just owning the concept and the idea that there's going to be troubles, there's going to be problems, you're going to have struggles in your relationships, you're going to have struggles with your money. That's the first step to transforming your life.
And I really like the idea that you're bolstering yourself and you're preparing in advance. With my kids, I try to teach them almost a game theory of life, where certain things are most likely inevitable, so you can prepare yourself for how you're going to react in advance. So when they were little, when we were talking, having the drug talk, I'm like, it's almost inevitable. You're going to find yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable at some point. Someone's going to offer you something everybody in the room might be doing, whatever. You need to role play how you're going to do the right thing before it happens. So in the midst of it, you're not trying to find the answers. You're not trying to find the solution. You've already role play who you are, how you're going to respond, what you're going to say to a situation. You want to make these decisions about how you're going to withstand the storm before the damn storm hits. Now, if you find this video and you're already in a storm and that's why you clicked on the video, you're going to have to improvise and you're going to have to make these decisions kind of mid-course. But the thing is, the storm you're in right now is only one of a series of storms. So this is an opportunity for you to kind of decide in advance. I like what you have here is we don't remodel a home. You don't own. Yeah. Perspective is a do-it-yourself project. I think that's really good. You don't remodel a home you don't own, and you have to own it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it would be you would see it or think of it as a waste, and this is why some people don't invest in themselves. It's like, oh, this will be a waste, and I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months, so why should I invest in this now? As far as learning something, as far as a new trade or learning some new skill, because I don't really know where I'm going to go. I don't know my purpose. And I think that, you got to know that this is always going to be a do-it-yourself project. Like if you want to get better, Jason Lake can't make you better. I mean, Ronnie Doss can't make you better. We can only offer you some tools, but at the end of the day, you're going to be the one that choose to take ownership of it. Yeah. And if I was living in a house that I was just renting a home, I'm not going to spend $100,000 remodeling the bathroom. I'm not going to spend $100,000 remodeling the kitchen. Because I know I'm going to be moving out of it. But when you say, all right, I'm going to take ownership of this, this is mine, then you start taking care of it. And this is your life to take care of. And Jason, one of the things that you said was so good. And I didn't know you were going to throw this in there because this is such a great
I'm full of surprises today, Ronnie.
You are, man. You are. But when you're talking to your kids about like drugs and things, you said, how are you going to role play? Like, what are you going to do? And I just wrote down, own the role. And what that means is if you wanted Allie to release your daughter, if you wanted her to step in and be like, okay, in role playing, this is how I would behave. This is how I would respond. The pressure is going to keep coming, but this is what I'm going to stand for to withstand, as you said, the storm or the peer pressure. Then whatever that character is that she needs to play, because it really is stepping into a character in that moment. If she owns that role, like any great actor will do. I love listening and studying actors because I love how they get into character. I love their process. Like Joaquin Phoenix doing the Joker, like watching how he got into process and how he thought. Brad Pitt, like listening to these guys like Robert De Niro, how they get into process. To me, it's fascinating because of what they can do with their brain. Al Pacino, they own these roles so much that no matter where they get dropped, no matter what the set looks like, they can stand in that character and really dig in and pull it off. And when you see it, you're like, wow, that those guys owned that. They crushed that. That's how I think we need to see ourselves in our life. And I learned this from even the actors, and we're done. I don't want to go off this too much, Jay, but listen to me. I was in listening to a few actors talk. I saw a guy interviewing, it was Denzel Washington. And he said, have you ever wanted to quit? And Denzel said, yeah, like right in the middle of shooting a movie. He said, I was so down and so overwhelmed and fearful that he said, I wanted to pay everybody off on the movie set and just axe the movie and be done with it. And Oliver Stone, they said the same thing. He said, have you ever thought about quitting? This is a guy that like has produced, directed all these movies, JFK, like it's unbelievable, Oliver Stone's resume. But he said, I feel like I want to quit every day. And he said, and the older I get, the harder it is to get out of bed. And he said, because there's you see the wins on the surface, but there's so many losses that feel like losses that just like waves hit you. And I thought, if these are two guys that are A-list, top of their game, saying there was times they wanted to quit, then what makes me think I'm not going to want to quit sometimes? But you don't become great by just giving in to the emotion. You got to decide that you're going to own the role of being you. And when you decide that, nobody can pull you off of that. Like I can't make somebody change. You can't make somebody change. They have to change for themselves. I had to decide for myself that I was going to change, Jay. Like my mentor gave me great tools, but at the end of the day, when I would say to him, man, you changed my life, he would say, I did not change your life. You changed your life. I gave you some tools and you changed it. And that was his perspective. And I've adopted that. And if we own it, we can change it. We can renovate our lives because we do own it, So anyway, sorry I went off on a little tangent.
No, I think that's very, very accurate. So I want to clarify real quick. Perspective is a do-it-yourself project. So we're talking about you don't remodel a home, you don't. Your perspective, how you're viewing things, and how you're kind of understanding and reacting to different adversity in your life. It's a do-it-yourself project. Touch on that real quick before we get to the next one.
What's the old saying? Is the glass half empty or is it half full?
Right. Right.
Who gets to decide? Well, I get to decide. I get to decide. And that seems very simple, right? It seems very fundamental. It seems very elementary that, the glass is half empty or it's half full.
Yeah.
But in your life, Jay, think about it, man. Like you have these challenges that come up to you. They are relative to you, meaning that you get to decide at what level they mean what they mean to you. And everybody walks through certain things. And some people deal with things that are very similar, but their responses to them are oftentimes very, very, very different. And I think this is why it's a do-it-yourself project, is because you have to decide that if you want to have a better perspective on something and want to have a better experience of something, then you have to own that perspective. And if it needs to change, you're the one that has to change it. That's the do-it-yourself part. Nobody else is going to come along and fix your life for you. Like even so many memes. It's one of the things that I struggle with sometimes. I mean, just being honest, Jay, sometimes in faith and religion and so forth, it's like, oh, the Savior's coming and the Savior's this. And I'm like, well, maybe the Savior, if it's the Christian standpoint, maybe Christ and the Holy Spirit, maybe God's already given you the tools that you can change and transform your own mind and renew your own thinking. Maybe you have the tools. The question is whether or not you're going to pick them up and use them. Waiting on somebody else to come along and save you, and this escapism mentality of getting away from the problems. I think that can hinder us sometimes from really taking on the things that we need to take on and being accountable for them.
I agree. And I think I don't want to skip over this too quickly because I think it's incredibly, incredibly important. I mentioned this earlier, how we all know people who've gone through different hardships and trials and storms and adversity in their lives. What is it that separates, one person who, and I'm just making up totally random examples, one person who loses their entire family in a car accident and seems to get on with their life and still have a fulfilling, meaningful life, or another person, for example, might lose a job or a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they completely implode. I really, really strongly believe that the perspective from which you look at these things has a high correlation to overcoming and surviving the adversity in your life. I personally find it helpful at times when I'm really struggling with things that's adversity in my life, and this helps me to look at some of the people I know well that, quite frankly, have much bigger problems and deal with much deeper issues, and it makes me realize, look, I feel like this is just the end of the world and my world's crumbling down and what am I going to do and woe is me. I get inspiration from looking at others that are going through much, much worse adversity on an objective scale and still battling and still fighting and still keeping their heads up each and every day. And I think the key, or one of the keys to that, is very much perspective. And it's important to understand that your perspective is largely in your hands. And it is a do-it-yourself project, and it's something you need to keep doing and working on. Always step back from your world that consumes so much of your thought and so much of your time and so much of your energy, and look at the world around you, because there's people that have it a heck of a lot worse. And you can almost always find someone whose storm is worse than your storm. And you can find strength from that, and you can find perspective from that. Hey, I lost my job. It's a big problem. I'm really, really down about it. But this female friend of mine over here just lost her husband. Would I rather lose my husband or my job? Put in perspective, it's not so damn bad. And it doesn't negate or diminish the adversity you're going through. It doesn't make the pain necessarily any less. It gives you perspective about the adversity. It gives you perspective about the problem. And once you have that perspective, I think you've got a leg up in the situation.
Yeah. So let me say this, man. So you said this about someone losing their family. I'm sitting here texting you when we were getting ready to start today. I'm texting with one of my closest friends. His name's Kevin. And Kevin lost his son, Brandon, in a terrible car accident years ago. Brandon was 9 years old. There's twins, Bryant and Brandon. And they had this horrible accident. And it broke, like Kevin's wife, Melissa, like broke all their bones. She's in a body cast. She's hooked up. It's like, it was awful. And so this was 20 some years ago. And it's horrible. I have an 11-year-old Addison. I got a 6-year-old Kennedy. To imagine losing one of them, would be, dude, I can't even, I have a hard time, fathoming that. Right. But check this out. So a couple of weeks ago, I lost a very good friend of mine. He lost his life. He passed away. And I went to the memorial service a couple of weeks ago. And Kevin was there, my friend who lost his son. And, during that service, Kevin's sitting next to me and telling me, he's like, Ronnie, I love you, bud. He knew I was hurting for my friend. I cried the whole service, man. And it hurt me so bad knowing that my friend had passed and the way that it went down. But Kevin's sitting there next to me and his wife next to him that went through this accident and lost a kid. And he's encouraging me. These are the kind of friends, man, that you want to have in your life. And there's an old saying that if you want a friend, you got to be a friend. And that means you got to figure out what you can do to step up and help somebody else. Because the moment you shift that perspective from woe is me to I can serve somebody and help somebody and make a difference for them, you start to see that a lot of your problems start to dissolve. People that struggle, yes, people, dude, it's unbelievable. And it's a perspective shift. And I know I can give you story after story of people that I've had the good fortune of having crossed their path who have been through some real hell in their life. Like my friend Kevin. I mean, you just wouldn't believe. But they chose to step up and not quit. And it's so inspirational to hear somebody talk like that. And they don't share the story to be like, oh, look how great we are. We survived all this crap. No, they don't do it for that. They tell their story and they step in to help because that's who they wanted to have around them when they went through their thing, is somebody to love and encourage them. And we need that. So we need to be that, which means we need to have a right perspective. So anyway, man, you said 100%. It, somebody's lost that. It's 100% true, man. And life sucks, but your attitude doesn't have to. You can walk through stuff and you can feel crap and you can get hit with it, but feelings don't mean reality, Jason. Just because you feel like the world's going to end, that's not true. It doesn't mean the world's going to end. You're going to get up each day. And if you can check your perspective, get some support, get your mind right, over time with the right perspective heals wounds, and wounds become scars. And those scars are places in on your body that are stronger than even the flesh, the skin that you had before. And this is part of growing up and maturing. You got to walk through it, but the perspective part is so paramount, man. So I went long again. There I go. A rant is coming. What'd you say last time? I feel a rant coming.
So the last part of this pillar, ownership is the first step towards transformation, is pressure spotlights commitment. Adversity shows who you're choosing to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you're in the fire, it really comes out, doesn't it?
It does, man.
When you're getting squeezed, the real deal's out there. The mask is off. You're getting squeezed. You're in the storm. Pressure spotlights commitment. Let's touch on that real quick. We'll move to the next pillar.
It just shows what you have in you, in the sense that, oh my God, this pressure is releasing some things, and it will. Like there's pressure in a marriage, for example, or a relationship. And most people watching this, man, know that relationships are important, whether it's a relationship with parents or relationship with kids or friends, relationship with whoever, the boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, all that. That pressure will expose what's in you, and you get to confront those things that are in you. Because it's really easy, man. My wife and I have been together 17 years. Dude, I'm a decent looking guy. My wife's super hot. She's beautiful. We got options. You think it wouldn't be easy to walk away? Sure, probably think you can restart, rebuild your life, but it's
Yeah.
like you do that and you just hop around. You don't really confront the things that are really kind of showing up for you in your life. You're not really growing. It's easier to just do the immediate gratification thing. And that seems to be what so many people do. So anyway, the whole part of the pressure part is it does expose what's in you. My mentor used to take an orange and say, if I take this orange and squeeze it, what comes out? And people say, well, orange juice. And he say, yeah, that's true. Orange juice. Right. And is that why orange juice came out? And they say, yeah, because it's an orange. And he would say, no, orange juice doesn't come out because this is an orange. Orange juice comes out because that's what's inside. And when you get squeezed, what you have in you is going to show itself. And so this is why watching video like this, right? Listening to audio programs like books, reading, improve, because you are going to get squeezed. Yep. But it's how much you can handle the pressure of life and still perform is going to determine ultimately, and we'll touch on this, how valuable you become, but ultimately, like what kind of success you can create. If you run every time it gets stressful, you're screwed. I mean, that's just in time, you're going to be screwed. It's awful. So
absolutely. All right, let's hit the next. Let's hit the next pillar. Get it centered on the screen here. Obstacles are opportunities. Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, adversity in your life, storms of life, the problems of life are obstacles, right? Or they weren't kind of blocking us or causing us some type of struggle or harm. There wouldn't be adversities. So obstacles are opportunities. And this is really key to note. And this really has got me through some really tough times, is mentally knowing this. Like emotionally, it could still be a struggle. Let's just be real. But the adversities in life are actually opportunities. Personal growth is accelerated during adversity. You're gaining wisdom and experience. If you analyze great people who you admire, I almost virtually guarantee you they've gone through some hell and back, right? And so it's an opportunity. And if you're in a situation, or better yet, you're preparing for the adversity that's surely to come in your life, understand that when shit hits the fan and when it gets really tough out there, it is actually those moments in your life from which you will look back when you're older and have gray hairs like me over here and realize that's when I gained the most wisdom. That's when I gained the most experience. My personal growth was accelerated during the storm, during the adversity, way, way, way more than when everything was smooth sailing and I was happy and everything seemed to be going my way. It's the pressure that builds the muscle, right, Ronnie?
It is, and it makes you feel things that you otherwise wouldn't feel. That's why people become addicted to comfort. It's a way to become kind of checked out. People get addicted to gambling. They get addicted to, drugs. It removes them from a reality. And I think that understanding that the obstacles that show up for you in life, they can give you a gift. It's something for you to work through. Like if you think about it, like you get to the fourth grade because you worked through the third grade, you get to the fifth grade because you worked through the fourth grade, you get to the sixth because you worked through the fifth, and you're growing a little along the way. You wouldn't take a kid and throw them into the 12th grade. It's a toddler and be like, either you pass or fail. And if you fail, you suck. It's like, well, Wait a minute there. You know what I mean? You don't do that. Life's kind of the same way. It usually doesn't give us more than we can handle. And so since it's not going to give us more than we can handle, then how are we going to handle it? I have the perspective on this, Jay, and this is a little more of my spiritual approach to things. It's like, if time really is infinite, it's eternal. And maybe consciousness and awareness is that we look at our life and we go, well, what do I want to experience? What do I want to see? Maybe God and I had an agreement. Maybe we talked, the universe and I came to some agreement that, hey, you're going to go down here and you're going to live on earth. And you're going to feel certain things. And when you feel these certain things, it's going to give you a wisdom that you can't get unless you actually have the experience. And so when you go down and you deal with these challenges, it expands your consciousness because you now are looking to create solutions, and you're not just sitting back talking about and theorizing maybe what it could be. You're actually in it doing the work. And that's sometimes how I consider it. It's like, maybe if I knew the end from the beginning, if I knew that there was going to be challenges and I chose to come down here anyway and get involved in a flesh suit, wear a flesh body that can cause pain and adversity, or feeling emotional adversity or anxiety. Maybe I chose into this. And so maybe it's like, maybe some future part of me knew that this was going to be difficult, but I chose in anyway because I wanted to grow. That's more of an eternal look. And that's why I think it's always an opportunity. There's possibilities in the obstacles, and because I want to see what I can figure out. And some people thrust themselves into challenges where they figure out big problems. They can solve big problems and they get paid at that level. Some people don't choose to learn things and adapt and refine their skills. So they don't learn to solve much better problems, and they never get paid for that. And it's not really about the money, but the money kind of shows up when you learn to solve problems really well. And that's using the adversity to your advantage. It's seeing it as an opportunity versus something that shouldn't be happening. So you kind of embrace challenges and are open to them versus pushing against them. And that's just been my take on stuff, man.
And we have here, be creative, be resourceful during this time, to address the adversity. And this is really important. It comes up in a lot of our shows for a reason. Monitor your self-talk, internal dialogue, how you talk to yourself, because it can be really precarious during times of adversity, times of stress.
Yeah. I used to, I'll tell you where I heard this. There was a guy, he was the pastor of a church, and he's an old school guy. But my dad, growing up, my dad would turn the radio on. Like, we'd be out working. My dad laid bricks. I've told you about my dad, but he turned the radio on his truck, so you could hear the radio going while he's laying bricks on the job site. And he would listen to this guy. His name was Charles Stanley, old school Baptist preacher, like Dr. Charles, Atlanta, right? Dr. Stanley. Atlanta, his son was Andy Stanley, right? And North Point Church. Anyway, but Dr. Stanley said that when people used to come up to him after service and give him kind of feedback, people would line up to meet him. He said underneath his breath to himself, before the person spoke, he would always say, "Thank you, Father." And Dr. Stanley said that. He shared that. I wouldn't have known it unless he shared it. He shared it from a sermon. And he said, the reason I was doing that, he said, I was just kind of creating the space to remind myself that no matter what this person says, that even if it's a harsh criticism, and he says people sometimes have came and given him that, he said, I'm choosing to be thankful for it. He said, because that puts me in a space to where I can take whatever is offered to me and use it for my good to become better. And if you make your life about becoming better, you'll take, these challenges that come at you, and you just use them. And so when you talk to yourself in a way, I used to do this thing where I'd say, I love it. And it was like, my wife would say, hey, just so you know, the electric bill this month was, $800. And I'm like, I love it. And otherwise, it's stupid. It's like, otherwise it's like, oh, I can't believe it. So it's like, okay, I love it. This is whatever. If there's some changes we need to make, let's make them. But I'm not going to pay the $800, financially pay the $800, but then pay emotionally and mentally as well. I'm not doing all that. I'm not throwing a side order of emotional stuff on it. So that's where I'm like, I just choose to be like, all right, I love it. Let's do this thing. What is it? And it's helped, because that internal dialogue, Jay, as you know, man, pressure makes that negative voice get louder. It amplifies it. And if you don't get control of it, it can really feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. So I think it's incredibly encouraging that these difficult times can actually be very much for our benefit, that they are opportunities. If you monitor your self-talk and you're creative, resourceful, your personal growth is going to be fast forwarded. The next bullet point we have here is overcoming adversity increases your value. You don't build muscles without resistance. You don't get the tough skin on your hand without the calluses. I said earlier, the scars are actually stronger than the original skin that the scar replaced. And if you are interested in gaining wisdom and experience and becoming better, and you definitely are if you're sitting through these episodes of ours, adversity and the tough times in your life is when that can really happen. So in some weird upside down sort of way, you should kind of be excited about them. Why does overcoming adversity increase your value?
Well, so if you've gone through anything, which we all have, but when you've gone through something, and as one of my mentors used to say, take the lesson, leave the guilt, leave the shame, take the lesson. Once you go through, I always tell people that wisdom doesn't come from experience. It comes from reflected experience. You can go through a situation and never ask yourself, like, what am I going to pull from that? Like, what's the lesson? Losing my friend a couple of weeks ago and going to that memorial service, I sat there, I was so upset, but I left and went, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to stay here sad, or are we going to ask ourselves, what adjustments can we make? What can we look at? What do we want to do in our life to make sure that we're doing good? Take the good lessons from his life and so forth. What are we doing? And I think it makes us more valuable when we've gone through some things. Like,
100%.
Think about it. Like, if
you can look at it like this. You can look at it like this.
Go ahead.
And, ask yourself if you're in a foxhole.
Mm-hmm.
Use the analogy. Like, who do you want next to you? Do you want grizzled, war experienced, and worn soldiers to have your back, or do you want the fresh recruit, the rookie right off the boat? It reminds me of the great miniseries Band of Brothers. When the new guys would show up, the grizzled veterans who'd been through the stuff, they didn't really want them next to them. They didn't really necessarily welcome them, and it was kind of surprising to see the first time I watched that show. And it's because you want somebody to have your back that's been through it, that's had bullets whizzing by their head, if you follow the analogy. And when I pick my friends, and quite often when I hire and other things, like, there is value to having those miles on the odometer, those scars in your life, and those difficulties that you've managed to overcome, because other people that have also done that realize, like, they want you in the foxhole with them the next time the shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah. And it's going to hit the fan. So I think this is part of the consideration too. I said earlier, if you want to have a friend, be a friend. What you want in someone else, be it. Yes. If you want somebody to fight alongside you, right? Like, if you want a strong team member, you want a strong spouse, you want a kind spouse, you want kind friends, you want somebody that's not so selfish, you want somebody that is generous as a friend, you're probably going to need to be that. So I think you want to look at the relationship and go, oh, I would like this in another person. Well, if I want somebody that's going to guard my back and cover my back, then I got to be willing to do the same for them. And if I want somebody guarding my back that knows what to look for because they've been through some things, then I need to be open to what to look for when I go through things. I need to be paying attention. It's not enough to just go through an experience. It sounds so cheesy, but don't go through it. You grow through it. You grow through an experience by looking at the lessons in it and going, okay, won't do that again. Okay. Yep. I could do that differently next time. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That didn't work. And it's like, instead of being so egotistical and like, oh my God, I can't admit that didn't work. It's like, hell, a lot of stuff's not going to work. Right. Like, you're going to start a bunch of businesses that are going to suck. Like, you're going to start stuff and it ain't going to work. It's not like, God, dude, I could give you, Jay, I mean, it's what I do. I study. I give you a lesson after example. Here, look, iPhone, right? Steve Jobs, right? Started this. That's my wife and I right there, by the way. But Steve Jobs fired from Apple, like fired from the company he started. Like, think of it. Then he goes back and they turn it into the, most valuable company in the world, I think, or one of them now. But there's all these things that people go through. It's like, man, you're going to fail. You're going to screw this thing up. Like, you're going to mess it up, and it's okay. I'm not so egotistical that I think I can't mess it up and learn. It's like, yeah, you screwed that up. I'm not trying to screw it up by any means. I'm not trying to do that. But if I do, I'm not going to be so caught up in my ego going, oh, I can't admit that I screwed up. I can't, whatever. It's like, no, I screwed up. I failed, but I'm going to fail forward because I'm going to take the lessons. And all these great stories, bud, are people that have had their butt kicked and their ass handed to them, all of them. And if you find somebody that, listen to me, that hasn't had their ass handed to them yet, it's because they hadn't done much. So I wouldn't put all my stock in somebody that hasn't ever dealt with some stuff. And as we grow, we're going to deal with the stuff. So you don't resist it. You embrace it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm not doing anything. Let's keep moving. Keep moving. I love it. Were you just adopting my phrase? I love it. Did you just do that just because you really were like, right? Yeah, you're like, shut up, Ronnie. And you're like, I love it. No, I'm kidding. Anyway,
adversity reveals potential. Now we're running longer than we thought we were going to run. We're like, this will be a nice short episode, and we're rocking 40 minutes here. But
just so it's clear to the viewers, anybody watching this, it's not like we don't have a lot of other stuff to do. Like I've been going since like 5 a.m. this morning. This is not something that I have time to do. I just love it. And I'm grateful that we can share this information with people because this information has helped change my life or, helped me to change my life. But anyway, so yeah, man. And I just want to throw that little disclaimer in there.
I think before we get to our action items, we can hit this one really quick. We're talking about overcoming adversity if you're just joining us. And adversity reveals potential. And we just touched on that a bit. Authenticity doesn't require a response. And then we put in, you don't get pure gold without the fire. And that's the same with your life. You mine gold out of the ground. It needs to be put in extreme heat before it is purified. A lot of pollutants and other things that are bonded with it. You don't get the pure gold. You don't get the desired product until you put it through the fire. That's an analogy I always remember in my mind when I'm going through stuff like this is going to make me better. This is going to refine me, improve me. And that's my perspective, much as I can humanly hold on to when I'm going through stuff. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, and that's a good analogy to keep in your head to maintain that perspective. Why does authenticity doesn't require a response? What is that about?
Well, think about it. The dog that's barking in your background, he doesn't care. I heard that, right? Dogs don't care. Like I heard somebody say that, dogs don't care. The reason the dogs are so awesome and they're so kind to everybody else is because dogs are just focused on being dogs. They're not focused on whether or not people think they're a good looking dog or whether somebody thinks that they're a perfect dog or they do everything right. The dog finds the spot in the house he wants to lay, he lays there. He goes and eats his food, but the dog's just consumed, right, with just simply being a dog. Yep. Most of us, we get consumed with whether or not what we're doing is going to be approved and by everybody, and we're going to get the pats on the backs and oh my gosh, you're great, and we're so worried about whether our tweets are going to get retweeted and our posts are going to get liked and all that stuff. Right. Don't get me wrong, you have to be considerate of how people see you and so forth and your reputation, but when you're genuinely authentically serving, if you're doing it because this is what you were put here to do and that you want to serve and make a difference, whether people tell you thank you or not, Jay, they don't care. If you don't care, at some point you get to where you go, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if they 100%. Pat me on the back and tell me I'm great. I'm doing this because I know it's something I have to express in my life.
100%.
That's being authentic.
Freedom, man. That is true freedom.
Absolutely.
You can taste that. Not being so dependent on what people think, especially people that don't even know you and might want to speak up on social media and well, I want to do a show on toxicity and dealing with that in your life. But I think that's incredibly freeing. Definitely part of adversity.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt, man.
Excellent.
Let's jump to the action steps.
To action steps. We're gonna get the show out in just over 45 minutes because these are simple, except maybe the first one. Find your heaven on earth.
Yep.
Rest.
Ready
and rest well. We're talking about getting your rest in your life. These are action steps. We've mentioned a few pointers and tips and action steps throughout today's conversation for overcoming adversity. These are the last ones we're going to mention. Laugh.
Yep.
Can't say enough about laughter. The old
I'm funny, dude.
The best.
I'm a funny guy.
There's a few things that are super good for dealing with stress, and laughter is one of my favorite ones. I'll walk in the living room some nights and I'll talk to my wife. I'm like, I don't care what you put on. It just has to be funny because I'm way too stressed and I need to laugh because it's that physical release and it helps you get through adversity.
Oh,
exercise and take care of your body and lean on quality friends for support through the storm, through the adversity. Don't just do it alone. You have to have your posse. You have to have the guys in it or girls in the foxhole that you trust to be there for you in your life. And then when they go through theirs, you're there for them, like Ronnie said earlier. Touch on find your heaven on earth a little bit in some of these, Ronnie, and we'll wrap it up.
All right. What's special to you? I mean, like, that's it. What's special? You're heaven on earth. Like, what do you love to do? Like, my wife and I, like, we like to go do different things. So I got like on a martial arts Krav Maga t-shirt, right? There's just things that, like, my wife, we like to go do things like that, right? We like to exercise together. We like to watch funny movies. We like to do whatever. It's like, I don't have to be doing everything. I don't have to be sitting on a yacht, flying on private jets all the time and shopping in Milan. Like, I don't have to be doing that. It's like, what makes you feel really great around you? Is it fishing? Like, you like to go fishing, right? If you enjoy to listening to music, sit and, like, there's all sorts of different things that you can find in your life that you enjoy that maybe you didn't even know. But once you find something, like, make sure you're making some time to do that, like making time to do that. And that's heaven on earth, man. I love smoking cigars. I just had somebody text me. It's like, yeah, so we're doing cigars, whatever. The guy sent me cigars a couple of weeks ago. I like cigars because I sit with the cigar and I just smoke a cigar and I chill out back by the pool. That's heaven on earth to me. It's like when I'm with the cigars, like I'm nowhere else. Those little things fuel you, bud. And I think if you can find something you really enjoy, you got to protect that. Like, if you're going to do it, you got to put it in your day, make sure that it happens, because nobody else is going to come along and make sure it happens for you. But you strategically approach it that way. Be strategic. And I have things that I do, man. And I realize the older I get now, the more I need to do that. The more I help people and the more demand I have of people calling me, asking me questions, and consulting companies and teams and businesses, dude, the more I have to take care of me and find things that I love to do. And as you said, laughing, it's my Achilles heel, dude. You start laughing with me, who knows what will come out of my mouth? Because if I start laughing, I'll start saying anything, and people are like, "Oh my God, you're always so serious, business consulting." It's like, but then you love to be a clown. I love to laugh, man, and it's so good. And then resting, just God, dude, just giving your brain time to clean itself, to self-clean. And when you rest, man, it allows you just to clean out some of the old junk that you carried from the day before. Because if not, it just keeps accumulating. Next thing you know, it just wears you down. So rest is just as important as work. It really is. So rest invests into better work. I say that a lot, but all these things, man, are just some things to help you kind of move through adversity. And then you said surrounding yourself with good friends. Dude, I can't stress this enough. The greatest blessings in your life will come through the relationships that you have. The biggest challenges you'll face is through relationships that you have, the biggest pain. But when you do relationships well and just decide, I'm going to be a little better in this relationship than I've been in relationships before, and work a little harder on me, man, you got some good people around you that can lock arms with you and walk you through some tough times. And when they're going through it, which they will too, you can help walk through them. Yeah. Walk with them through tough times.
And remember, that's cool, like we talked about earlier in the episode, prepare in advance for adversity. Be intentional. So set these patterns in your life. We talk about these in quite a few episodes for a reason. Get your rest. Make sure you're laughing. Exercise. Take care of your body, what you're eating. Find and build quality relationships so you have these pillars in your life when the earthquake comes, when the storm rocks your world. Know and understand you're going to have adversity. You're going to have problems. It's impossible to avoid. So if you could start planning and start building yourself up and start asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be in a storm? How do I want to come out of that storm? And then understand that the storms actually improve you and make you better. Hopefully some of these pointers and tips help some people in the audience. And, leave us your comments and your thoughts. We're going to do a little Q&A quick here for the live Twitch audience. But we try to go back and read the comments on the YouTube. And, everyone's going to hit adversity. And we wish you and yours the very best. Can come out better on the other side. Ronnie, final thought.
I think this is amazing. I think it's awesome that you take the time to do this to help people. I'm happy to be on board and us do this together, Jay. But, I know a lot of people walking through some tough times. It's been a tough few weeks for me, but you know what I found is that if I can just stay focused and keep believing for better and keep my eye on the prize, man, throughout my life, that's helped me to navigate through some tough things. And, I'm sure there's going to be more adversity coming, and that's okay, because I know there's another level to get to. And so I think together we're going to help people to get there. I think it helps me when I'm doing these and listening to myself talk. I get to listen to myself talk a lot to other teams and people You know, there's something really great on the other side of the storms, man. But you got to be willing to walk through them. So that's what this is really about. So yeah, man, I enjoyed today. It was really awesome, bud. Great.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time as always. I do appreciate it, and I think your wisdom and insights are gonna help everyone who takes the time to watch the shows. So leave us your thoughts in the comments below. Click the follow button, and we'll see you on the next episode of Rewired Gamer.
I hope our fans are ready for a wild ride. Juggernaut or not, we're here to kick some ass.
If you say you just can't take any more, all you're really saying is I just don't want to go any higher.
Failure is not the opposite of success. It's only part of it.
And you kept fighting, and you kept fighting, and you kept fighting. That's all I ask from you guys ever.